going on YouTube? Thanks for tuning back into another video. This shouldn't be a very long one. I just kind of wanted to show you guys some of the stuff we're doing to the rear end of the Honda CRX. If you aren't familiar with the channel, this is an all-wheel drive B-Series Honda CRX. We're using CRV/element components for the rear end. As for the differential, it's very similar, so the outside housing is pretty much the same, the one that you just saw right there in that first clip. But if you weren't familiar with what happened a couple days ago, we did some pulls and we had some engine failure. The sleeve cracked, so we're in the process of building a new motor for that. And we're actually waiting for the block to come back from the machine shop actually. But while we're waiting for that, I also mentioned in the video very quickly that there was also some rear end damage. So essentially when I launched the car, I had just made the brand new rear differential mount, the top mount. I don't know if you guys saw that video. It made it super sturdy up top. I bolted it down and everything, but the rear still had a little bit of flex, which was still okay because the top was super rigid. Not ideal, but it was better than nothing. So after we did that points, obviously I used new bolts on the top. The bolts ripped the threads out of the old differential, the centerpiece. I actually still have it under the car right now, but basically that's the center of the differential. There's a front half that goes to it where the clutch packs, and then to the right, the back side, that's where the pumpkin goes and goes to the actual axles. We put a new one in the car because that one, the threads, you can see those two bolt holes right there and right there, the threads ripped out of it. So I guess there was failure on that. We didn't have the long enough bolts and it just ripped out. So we have a new one in there. It's nice and ready to go. And then as for the rest of the drive shaft damage, that carrier bearing totally destroyed itself. And the front shaft, the slip joint from the viscous coupler, or the slip joint from the Land Rover, excuse me, completely broke. There's the other part of it. So that failed, the carrier bearing failed, and the diff failed. We're in the process of getting everything fixed, obviously. So we got it bolted on with the proper size bolts, the differential. We have the new differential in there. Still welded diff, but it's the new center. It's basically brand new all around. Then as for the rear end, obviously we have the front that's nice and supported over there under the car, but this one is still flexing and it's still off of the OEM subframe. So what we made, basically, we welded on a plate onto square tubing to box it off, and then drilled some holes onto it and bolted it up to the lower control arm points, and then welded a bar across. And this bar is about to get welded in against this to have another point of contact to the lower control arms. This is actually an idea that S1 gave me, S1 built. They were saying how this style design, the biggest problem on it is that it relies on the subframe instead of the whole lower control arm bolts, which if you look at their kit uses, it ties it in right here, ties it in right there at the top points. It ties it in a lot, so it's super sturdy with the frame. This one is still super flimsy off the subframe. So what I'm about to do right now is bolt this onto the lower control arm bolts, the mounting points, and then weld it on. As you can see, I'm already starting to grind. I'm gonna clean up a little bit more and weld it onto there. That way it's not only attached with a strong mount in the front, but it's also attached a little bit to the subframe, and then it'll mainly be attached by the lower control arm bolts, or points, excuse me, and make it a lot stronger. We're gonna start bolting this thing up. I don't know what to call it. It's just a bar that I made here at home. I got the impact driver, and the bolts. Really simple. I just slip this in right here. Gotta think, I made this thing at like 10 o'clock last night with little to no light, and it's not 100% level now that I'm looking at it. This side is a little bit higher than this side, which I'm not too happy about, but it'll still definitely get the job done. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna run a bead across the top and over on the bottom, and this will be attached to the subframe. I'm gonna start with the bottom portion just because it's a little bit more comfortable. Shouldn't be too hard. Wasn't super bad. Just kind of did small spot welds. The material on this is a lot thinner than the material on this. It's not bad, it penetrated on both sides. Add a little more to the other side, but here you can see it. It's all right. It's not great, but it's not bad. It's focusing in. I'm gonna add a little to this corner right here, and then a little bit more right there as well. That might have come out awful. Then again, I was 100% blind with it. Hey, you got some on there. Better than nothing, I guess. So I actually moved the welder over here to the right side, and it was just a little bit easier to not have like the cable for the feed on the welder like in a weird angle, so I could actually feed up in it. You can see I got a little bit of weld. It's not pretty at all, but what I had to do basically was build up on the back and then have that like actually melt onto the tube. Not a pretty weld. If I had, for example, a TIG welder that had a 90-degree bend to it, then it would have been perfect and I could have gotten it, but without that, didn't come out nice. Here's the bottom weld, which I think it came out pretty good. You can see that all across it got it, and then I welded some on the back as well, and it looks pretty good. I just tried shaking the diff from the front. It's not connected to the drive shaft obviously, but like just holding it with my hand and trying to push it up. Before I used to flex, even with the new front mount. Now you try to push it up and there's absolutely no flex. So it should be a lot better than what it was before. And obviously it is just exposed, steel, so just got some cheap spray paint, gonna spray it down and it should be good right there. Got it coated on there, a little bit of spray paint, nothing major. Now that I'm looking at it, I wish I could have had the design. I wish I really had like a tube bender or something, so I could have had this go down a little bit and attach to the bottom of it. Although it's still strong right there. They say, you know, the lower that you go, the more strength that you'll have if you're applying to like the bottom of the weak point instead of to the middle. Or another thing that I could have done is welded some square tubing from here also down to the bottom of this ear. Just another idea, but it's okay. I'm sure that that's gonna be more than enough. Like I said, the design doesn't even come with this, but it's something that I think is definitely gonna help. Now it's bolted onto here. It's not welded onto the body here, but it's welded onto the body here. So this is gonna be unremovable. I could have welded right here, but the metal right here is so much thinner than what it is right there. I didn't want to risk blowing a hole or anything, and the bolt should be more than enough to hold it into place. That's how a lot of the kits are anyway, so it's not like it gets welded. It's directly to the subframe right there. But yeah, it looks pretty beefy. I'm pretty happy with how it came out, and it really should help with the rigidity of the rear of the car. All right, guys, we are done with the lower subframe brace that we made from the subframe over to the differential, which you guys have already seen. Just cleaning up the garage a little bit right now and getting ready for some other stuff. Gonna bring in the RSX right now and get started on that car a little bit. And then in the meanwhile, in the next couple days, we'll actually be doing the Integra as well, and waiting on the block to come back for this. Since you guys know, we are changing out the block from a cracked B20 to a nice fresh B20. That being said, we are finishing up the video for tonight. Thank you guys for staying tuned and watching this whole clip. We're gonna go ahead and push these cars out right now and get rearranged in the garage and start on the next ones. And thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.